Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and of course, getting you set for all the championship weekend play. It starts on Friday night with the Pac-12, Utah and Washington, and also out to the MAC with Northern Illinois taking on Buffalo. Our MAC connection is Steve Helwick. You can join him on SB Nation's Hustle Belt. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Really excited for championship weekend. I think we have a lot of good games. The MAC tonight with the Pac-12. Those should be good games to kick off the weekend with NIU, Buffalo, and Utah, Washington. So I'm looking forward to the weekend.
So Buffalo quickly established itself against a few Power 5 opponents as a worthy group of five, as one of the best in that level. Your thoughts about the Bulls, your thoughts about Northern Illinois, a couple of teams that did not play during the regular season, but how did they arrive at this point?
Buffalo just had a phenomenal season. It's not even a question that this is their best season in program history. It was their first time getting double-digit wins in a season. They finished 10-2, and most of it was behind their great offense. They have MAC Offensive Player of the Year, Tyree Maction Jackson, as they call him, 6'7" quarterback, maybe an NFL prospect down the line. He loves throwing the deep ball, very good at it too. I think only Taylor Cornelius has more pass attempts of more than 20 yards than Tyree Jackson in the nation. And Jackson loves connecting on those with his receiver, Anthony Johnson. That's a future NFL receiver for sure there. First team All-MAC 2 years in a row. Anthony Johnson, great receiver to lead Buffalo throughout the season. He battled some injuries, but he also had a 238-yard game against Miami, Ohio, that is, showing his true potential this season. So Buffalo really got here behind a great offense, and they also had some good running back play. Jarrett Patterson, the MAC Freshman of the Year, had a breakout season as a running back. He's second among all FBS freshmen with 12 rushing touchdowns this year. And he's one of those guys that just has a refusal to go down. Just so many good, efficient moves, has good cuts in the running game. So just that trio right there of Tyree Jackson, Jarrett Patterson, and Anthony Johnson really helped propel Buffalo to that 10-2 season. They had a good, serviceable defense too. Their secondary, I believe, is top 20 in the nation in yards allowed. And then they have just a star linebacker, Khalil Hodge, great run stopper. He's top 10 all time in MAC tackles out of all MAC players. So Buffalo has just a good all-around team, primarily on offense, but good all-around team. The only problem with the Bulls is their two losses were both in blowout form. Army 42-13 and Ohio 52-17. When they lose badly. Everything goes south. And that's when their defense isn't getting anything. And usually when the Buffalo can't get defensive stops, their offense just starts looking bad after that. So, but luckily for the Bulls, NIU is not equipped offensively to drop 40 points on them. In fact, the Huskies only broke 30 points this year twice. So I'm going to transition into the Huskies here. They're 7-5. And they more limped into the MAC championship game. I know Buffalo did lose a game 2 weeks ago to Ohio, but Northern Illinois' end to their season was just horrendous. They lost the game to Miami, Ohio, 13-7, and their defense did their work, but they didn't even give up an offensive touchdown. But they lost 13-7 because their offense is so inept. They run the same couple plays, and that hasn't really worked out for them recently. They don't really have an aerial attack. Quarterback Marcus Childers, He's good in the running game. He has not thrown over 200 yards in a game this year, except for one time. He's only done that once. NIU does have a strong running game, though. Trey Harbison, Marcus Jones is the running backs, and they have a great offensive line, led by Max Sharping, who's a 3-time first-team All-MAC recipient. And that's where NIU gets the most of their offense. But their true identity is they're a defensive team. Sutton Smith, AP All-American last year, FWAA All-American, Walter Camp. He was consensus. This year, he's a MAC Defensive Player 2 times in a row, and he had 14 sacks last year, led the FBS. This year, he has 13 sacks. I think he's 4th in the FBS. And Sutton Smith is an absolute machine in pass rushing. That will be the key to the game. Can Buffalo stop Sutton Smith? Because when teams like the Iowa Hawkeyes did this year against NIU, they can breeze past the Huskies. But Sutton Smith just causes teams fits just because he's so fast coming off the line, just a great pass rusher, has a lot of spin moves he puts to use, puts to memory, can get past the offensive line. Buffalo had a good offensive line that didn't give up any sacks through the first 5 games this year. But facing Sutton Smith's going to be a real challenge. NIU, good defense, most sacks in the nation out of any team. So this game is going to be, can NIU's defense hold firm enough on the Buffalo Bulls to win this? Because the Huskies, if the Huskies want to win, they're going to have to hold the Bulls below 24 points.
As you outlined, Steve, NIU, quite the disparity between offensive and defensive production. They're in the bottom 3 in the MAC in most major offensive categories, and they're in leading the MAC in rush defense, total defense, scoring defense, on down the line. Arriving at this game, as you mentioned, at 7-5. Of course, they played one of the more difficult non-conference schedules in the country. You mentioned the Iowa game, also facing Florida State and Utah. Buffalo comes in at 10-2, so Buffalo's the fresh face to the championship scene, while NIU's a typical customer at this point of the season, having won 7 of 9 MAC Western Division championships, long-time standing as a power in this conference. So do you have a read on this one?
I think this one should be one of the more obvious championship games. Actually, there's a lot of them this weekend. We have Appalachian State, Louisiana, Ohio State, Northwestern, and Clemson Pitt. There's a few lopsided championship games, and I think while this one may not be as lopsided as the ones I previously mentioned, I think Buffalo wins this by several possessions. I think the Bulls' offense is too good where they can attack NIU's secondary, and that's the one spot Buffalo actually is better on defense than NIU, and that's in the secondary. So if Buffalo can just attack the NIU secondary with wideouts Anthony Johnson and KJ Osborne, they should be able to put up, just because Buffalo's offense is really good, I think they can put up a little over 30 points and win this game, something like 34-17, just because NIU's offense, they don't really have that power to score 30 points in a game against a solid team like Buffalo. They did against Toledo, but Toledo's defense has taken a huge regression this year. So I think Buffalo wins this one comfortably, and the Bulls win their first MAC championship since 2008 when they beat the undefeated Ball State Cardinals that year under head coach Turner Gill.
NIU leads the series 11-1, and they're a perfect 10-0 against Buffalo since the Bulls joined the MAC. But of course, this is a much different Buffalo edition here, making it all the way to the MAC championship game at 10-2. And NIU, again, by their standards, an off season, but they still have a chance to advance and move on as the MAC champions once again. We got Steve Helwick on the line from Hustle Belt. Please join him right there for the very best in MAC sports action on SB Nation. Steve, we appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.